Hey, what's up guys? So in the last episode, we were able to install Material UI in our application and we created this top navbar. And in this episode, I want us to proceed to our other components where we will create a component for adding a to-do, and then we'll be able to work with icons in this video, and we'll also create the sign in and the sign up forms. So to get started, we need to install Material UI icons in our application. So you can come to Material UI website, and then when you come at the search bar here and search for icons, choose the first option. When you scroll at the bottom here, you'll see installation details. So to install Material UI icons in your application with npm, you just run this command: npm install at Material UI stroke icons, and with yarn you run this command. So just copy this command right here, and then go to Visual Studio Code, open a new terminal, paste that command right here, and all you need to do is to press enter to install Material UI icons in your application. So I have already done this and I won't repeat it just to save time. So I'll close this one, and then to see how you can use these icons, you can scroll at the bottom here and you can import the icons just like this. So the name of the icon, and they come from Material UI icons module. And then to get all the icons and their names, you can come at the top here and you'll see this link. You can search for full list of these icons, click it, and then you land to this page where you can see all the available icons in Material UI. So you can filter them, filled, outlined, rounded. So you can choose any kind of icons that you want, and these are the names of those icons. Okay, so you can scroll them and see the different icons that are available, and you can be able to use them in your application. Now let's get started by creating this component for adding a new to-do. So I'll come back to the text editor, and then we had created a component called todos.js, and what we need to do is to add a new file inside our to-dos folder called add todo.js. So I'll use JSX instead of JS, and then I'll come in the todos.js file, copy everything that is in here, and then paste it in our add todo.jsx file. Now we need to change the name of this component, so I'll select this one, use Ctrl D 2 times to select these to-dos and these to-dos, and then hit backspace and change the name to add to do. Now this is our add to do component. Now the next thing that I will do is that I will import this component inside our todos.jsx file right here. I'll just say import add to do, and this will be coming from the add to do file, which is available in the same folder, add to do. And we can use this add to do component in here instead of a h2. So I'll just say add to do, just like that. And then I'll create another file in our to-dos folder, and I'll call it list todos.jsx, and this will help us to list our different to-dos that will be coming from the database. So in here I'll simply paste what I had copied earlier and change the name for our to-dos component here. Use Ctrl D and then come at the front and include list, just like that. Now I can also import this component in our todos.jsx file. So I'll come here and say import list todos, and this will be coming from list todos, just like that. And then we can use it at the bottom here, list todos. Okay, now we should see add to do and list to do in our app. I'll come back and check it. And there we go, add to do, list to dos. Now let's tell our add to do component. So I'll come to the add to do component, and I'll import two components from the Material UI core library, and that is a text field and a button. So right here I'll simply say import ID structure text field and a button, and this will be coming from the Material UI core library. This is supposed to be a comma and not a full stop. So from at Material UI stroke core, and then we will need an icon, which is a send icon for our button coming from at Material UI icons module. So right here I'll just say import, the name of the icon is send, and this will be coming from at Material UI icons. And then now we can use this text field and this button in here. So I'll just get rid of add to do, and then I'll include a form tag. So this should start with a small letter. It's just a tag and not a component. And then in here we can include the text field component. So text field, it is self-crossing, and then below the text field we'll also have a button, just like that. Now I can include a closing and an opening for the button, so that in here we can include an icon, which is our send icon, just like that. So now we have included a text field, a button, and also an icon. So this text field should be capital here. So now this is what we currently have, a text field and a button which have an icon, but we can't clearly see the button, we only see the icon. And also we don't have a text field that we want this kind of a text field. So what we can do is to add some several props to achieve our style. So in our text field we can add these props. The first thing we will add is an ID for our text field. So right here I'll say ID to be equal to enter to do, and then we will have a label which will be enter to do. Some camel casing here, it is not a must, enter to do. And then we can set autofocus for this field. We set it to full width, and then we will have some other properties here like the value and an on change event later when we start working with the actual data. But for now this is good enough. Now let's go to our button, and we want to set a color for our button to be primary, which is the blue color. And then we will set the variant to be contained, so it can be outrained, contained, or it can remain as default. The type for our button will be submit. Just like that. And that's all we need for now, and we can see what we have. So I'll come back to the browser and wait for this to refresh. And now this is what we have. Our text field have not been styled correctly. So when I look at the label, autofocus, we should have a variant right here, variant to be outrained. So just like that, and now we should have the design that we want for the text field. So perfect. Now we want our enter to do text field and the button to be side by side, and for this we will depend on some custom styling. And for custom styling we used a hook earlier called make styles. So let's import this hook from material UI just right here. So we will import make styles, and this will be from at material UI. At material UI styles, and now we can use this make styles to create some custom styles. So just above our component here we can create a constant use styles, and then we invoke the make styles hook here, and we pass an object inside with the styles that we want. So I'll create a key called form style, and then I'll use an object to list the different styles. So we want a margin top and bottom to be 0px, and then left right to be auto, just to center our text field, and this one should be inside quotes. So I'll select all of them and use a quotes, make them to be inside the quotes, and then we will have a padding for our text field, and I want this one to be 30px. So padding 30px, and then we will have a border radius, just a straight border radius. Remember to use a comma here and then use border radius. And you can see that we are using camel casing here because this is JavaScript, and then right here you say 9px. I'll include a box shadow with these values 0px, 0px, and then this will be 12px and negative 3px, and then the color will be black, so hash 000000. And I have realized that this is misspelled, so make sure this is make styles. And now the next thing I'll do for our form styles is that I'll add a display of flex and a justify content of space between, just to make the text field and the button to be side by side. So right here I can say display to be flex. Remember to use a comma here and a comma here. Use justify content to be space between. Make sure this is spelled correctly. And that's all for our form style. We'll also have a styling for our button. So right here I'll say submit button to have a margin left of 20px. Now to use these styles, I'll come inside our component, create a constant called classes, and then invoke use styles, just like that. And now I can use these classes to access the different properties inside our make styles hook. So right here for our form, we can set a class name. We set it to be equal to classes dot form. What did we call it? Form style, just like that. And then we can add more properties for our form. I'll add no validate. Will depend on the server side validation which we added using Joy. So no validate, and then autocomplete, I'll set it to be off. So off. Now let's come to our button here and add this style, submit button style. So I'll say class name, and I'll set it to classes dot submit button. I guess that's correct, right? And that's it. We can now see the kind of styling that we are having for our add to do component. So I'll come back to the browser, and perfect. I think we are almost there. We have this text field and the button on the side, and we have some box shadow on it. Now the only thing we need to do is to create some spacing between the nav bar and this one, and also to make this one to be a bit smaller, just like we have in this app. Okay, yeah, just like we have here. So for this one, we won't touch our add to do component. We'll go back to our app.js file, and right here I'll use the make styles hook to create some custom styling, so I can import it from material UI styles. So import the make styles hook, from material UI styles, and then at the top of our app function we can create a constant use styles, which will be equal to make styles. We invoke it and pass an object in here where we can pass a key content style, and all I need to do is to add a top margin. So margin, this will be top and bottom to be 30px, and then left right will be auto, just to center it. This should be content style, and I guess we are good. Now I can come here and then create a constant, so const classes, which will be equal to use styles. I invoke it just like that and make sure the camel casing is okay. And now we can use classes to access content style. So what I will do is that I will wrap everything in here apart from the navbar inside a container component, and we had already imported the container component at the top. So right here I can use the container component again, and then I'll move the switch inside this container. Now we can use these classes right here. I'll set a class name to be equal to classes dot what did we call it, content style. Yeah, just like that. And then we can set the max width for this container, so max width, and I want it to be smaller than this one, so this will be SM for small, this is medium, and that's it. But I don't know why these errors are popping. Okay, this should be closed this way. Yeah, I think that should make the error disappear. Perfect. Now let's check our app and see if we have what we want. And there we go. Now we have our form and the submit button for adding a new to do. Perfect. Now the next thing we are going to style is our list to do's component. Before we proceed to the list to do's component, let's fix our autofocus on our field here. So when we come back to the code editor and go to our add to do component, you'll see that in our autofocus we should be using camel casing. Instead of using small f, use a capital F, and this should fix that. So when our app reloads, it should autofocus our enter to do field. And there we go. Now let's go to our list to do's component. And the first thing that we should have is a title, just like this one. Let me show you the to-dos, and then we'll have a component inside our list to-dos, which is a single to-do. So this is a single to-do, this is another single to-do, and so on and so forth. So I'll add this title by importing the typography component from Material UI. So right here, just import typography, and this is from Material UI core. And then we can use that typography right here. First of all, I'll start with a div, and I'll move this one, and then in here is where we'll have our typography component, and we should remove this. So import typography from Material UI core, and then we have the typography component here. And in here I can simply say the to-dos, and then the variant for our typography will be h5. So this will be h5, and then after this heading is when we'll have our to-do component. So let's create the to-do component. Inside our to-dos folder, I'll add a new file called todo.jsx, and I'll copy everything that we have in our list to-dos component and paste it in our to-do component. Now the only thing that I remove is the whole of this, and add a h2, simply saying to do. So this is a single to do, and then we change the name of our component, use Ctrl D, delete, and rename it to do. Now let's import this component in our list to do's component. So right here I'll say import to do from, so they are in the same folder, to do, and we can use this component just right here. So I'll duplicate this so that we have at least two to-dos in our list to do component, and we can see what we have in our app. So I'll come back here, go to the app that we are working on, and we have the title, and then we have two to-dos. Now let's create some spacing between our form here and the title here, and also style our list to do's. We'll create this shadow and so on. So I'll make use of the hook, make styles hook. So in our list to do's component, I'll import make styles from our Material UI styles. So this will come from at Material UI styles. And then before our component here, I'll create a constant called use styles, and then we invoke our make styles hook. By now you are used to this. We invoke it and pass an object, I will use to-dos style as the key, and then we set a margin. Our top will be 20px, so this is top and bottom. Left right will be auto, just to center our content, and then we'll set a padding of 20px. We include a border radius of 9px, and we also want to have a box shadow. So right here I'll say box shadow to be 0px, 0px, 12px, -3px, and the color will be black. So hash with 6 zeros here. Now we can use this style by creating a constant here called classes, which will be equal to use styles. Right here we'll set a class name, and we access our to-do styles using our classes here. So we'll say classes dot to-do styles. Just like that, and now we should have a box shadow around our to-dos and some margin top and bottom, and also padding. And we can preview this, and there we go. Nice. So the next thing is that we will work on our to-do component. In our to-do component, we want to have the name of our to-do, the author, the date, and then some action buttons on the side. So I'll come back to our list to-dos, and then I'll include a semicolon here, just some fancy text, and then I'll go to the todo.js file. We will need to import several components from Material UI core. The first one will be typography. The other one will be a button for our buttons, and then we'll also have a button group. So this will be for our action buttons. So button group, and then we will import several icons from Material UI icons. So let's import them here. The first one will be create, and then we will have a delete icon and a check circle icon for checking a to-do as done. And all this will be coming from Material UI icons. Just like that. Now let's make use of these components. Right here I'll use a div, and then I'll use another div for the content of our to-do, and below this we'll also have another div for our buttons. So in here we will start with a typography, and this will be the name of our to-do. So for example, we can say our maybe learn React, and the variant will be subtitle 1, include another typography. Actually I'll just duplicate what we have here. So I'll select these and then use Alt Shift and a bottom arrow so that we duplicate what we have, and this will be our author. So we can set the author to be Chaoo. Later we'll dynamically display this name depending on who created that particular to do, and then this will be the date, and then let's say 4 days ago. So we'll also display this dynamically depending on when the to-do was added. So the variant for this one, I'll set it to be body2, the same as this one. And then when I scroll at the bottom here, we can come inside this div and create our buttons, our action buttons. I'll use the button group component. And we can create the first button in here. And inside this button, we'll simply have an icon. And the first icon we will use is for checking a to-do as done. So I'll say check circle. And for our button group, we'll have several props. The first one is the size. And I'll use the small size. So here we'll set size to small. Array label will be outlined. So right here you'll have area hyphen label. This will be outlined, primary, button group. And then I'll duplicate this button 2 more times and change the icon from check circle to create and check circle here to delete. I'll set the color for our delete button to secondary. So this is reddish color. And the color for our create to primary. And for our check circle, I'll set the color to action. So later on, we'll conditionally render the color for our check circle depending on whether a to-do is done or not. At this point, we can see what we have. We should close this one properly. I'll go to the browser and wait for it to refresh. And perfect. Now this is what we currently have. We have the details for our to-dos and then the action buttons. But we want to display the details for this to do side by side. So we'll have the details and then the action buttons will be on the side. And for our other and added at or the date will be grayed out. Okay, just like we have here. So this is grayed out and then we have them on the side. And we'll also add a border around them and some padding. So with this, we will use custom styles. So I'll come back here and we need to import the makes styles hook. So let's do that. I will import make styles. And this will be from at material UI styles. And then just before our component, we create a constant use styles. We set it to make styles and invoke this hook, pass an object in here. And the key here we'll use to do style. And we can include the different styles for our to do. So first of all, we want some margin top and bottom for each to do to be 20px and then left and right to be auto. We want some padding for each to do. I'll set this one to 20px. I will include a border for each to do to be 2px solid and then this is the code for the gray color, bd, and then we'll have some border radius, and this will be 9px. And then to display the content side by side with the our action buttons, we'll use flexbox. So right here I'll set display to flex, and then justify content to space between. And to gray out our author and added art, we will use another key here, and I can call it maybe gray style. You can use any name, okay? And I'll simply set the color to this code, #8f8f8f. So now let's make use of these styles, and I'll come right here, create a const classes, which will be equal to use styles. I invoke that. Now this div is the one that represents our entire to do, so I'll say class name to be equal to classes dot to do style, I guess that's what we called it. And then we can use the gray style right here on this typography and this one. So right here I'll set a class name to be classes dot gray style, the same as this one. I can just copy this and paste it here. Now let's take a look at our to-dos here, and our flex was not applied, so I'll come back to the code and check our flex styles. So I misspelled display. I think that should fix it, so I'll come back and confirm. And there we go. Now we have achieved the exact style as this one. Now the next step that we will take is to create our sign-in and our sign-up forms. Now to work on the sign-in component, let's go to our text editor and open the sign-in .jsx file. So we'll need to import several components from Material UI, that is a typography, a text field, and a button. So let's do that. Import typography. We will need a text field and also a button, and all this will come from at Material UI core, just like that. And also we'll need some custom styles, so we can import the make styles hook, and all this will come from at Material UI styles. So it can be this way, or you can also include core here. Either way it works. So in here I'll just create a form, and we will use our typography component. Right here we'll simply say sign in, and the variant for this one will be h5. The next thing that we will have is a text field, and we'll have several props for the text field. We'll have an ID, which we can set it to enter email. So this text field is for the email, and then we'll have a label which will be enter email, and then we'll have a variant to be outlined, and finally we'll have full width, just like that. And then we'll duplicate this text field, and this one will be now for password, so enter password, and outlined full width. For the password, we'll also add a type of password so that the password is hidden, just like that. Now finally we'll need a button, so let's use the button component, and for the button it will say sign in. We can set several props. Variant will be outlined, and then the color will be primary, which is a blue color, and the type will be submit. And now we have the layout of our form. So for the form, we can also include some props right here. So we can have no validate, and then autocomplete to be off, and then we will add some custom styles, but for now let's see what we have so far. Okay, so I'll come back to the browser. Text field is not defined, and let's see. So this is text field with a capital F here, and let's see what we have. So this is what we currently have, and our blue color was not applied to our button. So I'll come back and fix that. I'll check the color here, and it seems to be okay. Okay, variant here should be contained so that the blue color can be visible, but you can leave it at outlined if you want. So variant contained, primary, submit. Now let's proceed to some custom styling. At the top here, we'll create a constant, use styles, and this will be equal to make styles. We invoke this hook and pass an object in here. The first key will be form styles or form style ladder, and then we can pass several properties here. The margin, I want it to have 0px of margin top and bottom. Left and right will be auto. Padding to be 30px. I'll also set a border radius of 9px, and a box shadow. I'll use the box shadow for this one, so I'll just copy this from the list to do's component and come to our sign in, paste it here. So now we have the form style. The next thing is to use it, so I'll come here, create a constant called classes, and I set it to use styles. I invoke that. Now we can set a class name here, class name to be equal to classes.formStyle. Yep, just like that. And now we can see what we currently have on the browser. So we have a cool box shadow here, and then some padding, but we need spacing between our different fields. So we can include another custom style right here, and I'll simply call it spacing, because that's what it does. And all we will do is to add some margin top of 20px, and now we can use this spacing key to access our margin top. So we will come on the text field component and add a class name to be equal to classes dot spacing. I will copy this, add it to this text field, come to the button and also add it here. So for each of these components, the button will have a margin top of 20px, margin top of 20px, and margin top of 20px. And when we look what we have, now we have some good spacing for our form. And that's it. When I enter the password here, it's hidden. Now let's go to the sign up form. And for the sign up, this will be super easy because we will use what we have in our sign in. So I'll copy everything here, open the sign up file here, and then select everything, paste our sign in content here. I'll come at the top, select this sign in, use Ctrl D so that we can edit multiple times, and change everything to sign up. And then when I come at the top here, I can start this with a small caps. Okay, now let's see what we can change, because now we already have a sign up component with an email text field, with a password text field, with a button that can submit the content. The only thing that we will add is another text field for the name. So I'll duplicate this at the top here. We change the ID to enter name. We change the label to enter name. And that's it. That's all we need to change. So we can check what we have. I'll come back to the browser, and there is our sign up form. So we can enter a name, email, and a password, and we sign up for an account. So at this point, I think we have successfully completed styling our UI. We have the forms, we have our to-dos component, entering a new to-do, the way we can display the to-dos. And in the next video, we'll now start working with the logic of our application. We will start by setting up Redux and then performing all the CRUD operations, and then later on we'll move to authentication and authorization. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of my videos.